Welcome to this animated flowchart that chronicles the second travel abroad of Dr. Jose Rizal, a Filipino national hero. Rizal's life was marked by a series of significant events, both personal and political, that shaped his legacy. Let's dive into his journey. Rizal's second travel abroad. In February 1888, Rizal was forced to leave his country for a second time. He was then a full-grown man of 27 years of age, a practicing physician and a recognized man of letters. Rizal at 27 was a embittered victim of human inequities, a disillusioned dreamer, a frustrated reformer. And he was then headed to Hong Kong. The following 6 months stay in his dear Columbia, Laguna, Rizal left Manila for Hong Kong on board the Zafiro. And then on February 7, 1888, he was sick and sad during the crossing of Happy Choppy China Sea. The vessel Zafiro made a brief stopover at Amoy, China. Rizal did not get off his ship at Amoy for three reasons. One, he was not feeling well. And the second one, it was raining hard. And third, he heard that the city was dirty. Then on February 8, 1888, he arrived in Hong Kong. While Rizal is in Hong Kong, he stayed at Victoria's Hotel. He was welcomed by Filipino residents, including Jose Maria Basa, Balbano Morico, and Manuel, damn, I don't know how to pronounce that, Manuel Iriarte, the son of Francisco Iriarte and alcalde mayor of Laguna. Jose Sainz Baranda, a Spaniard who was a former Secretary Governor General Terrerio, shadowed Rizal's movement in Hong Kong. It is believed that he has been spying on Rizal for Spanish authorities. February 16, 1888, during his stay in Hong Kong, Rizal wrote a letter to Blumentritt, expressing his bitterness to his enemies for forcing him to leave a country and describing Hong Kong as a small but clean city. At last, I can write freely. At last, I can express my thoughts without fear of censorship from the chief. They forced me to leave my country, half sick, and I left the house. Then he visited to Macau. Rizal, accompanied by Basa, boarded the ferry steamer Quicang for Macau. He was surprised to see among the passengers a familiar figure, Saints de Veranda. Rizal wrote his diary. The city of Macau is small, low, and gloomy. There are many junks, sampans, but few steamers. It looks sad and is almost dead. While in Macau, Rizal and Basa resided at the house of Don Juan Francisco Lacaros, a Filipino-Portuguese man married to a Portuguese woman. During his 2 day sojourn, he visited the theater, casino, cathedrals, and the churches, pagodas, botanical gardens, and the bazaars. He also saw the famous Grotto of Camões, a Portugal national pet. And in February 19, 1888, Rizal witnessed a Catholic procession in which the devotees were dressed in blue and purple dresses and while carrying an unlighted candles. In February 20, 1888, Rizal and Basa returned to Hong Kong again on board the ferry steamer Quicang. What did Rizal experience in Hong Kong? He observed Chinese New Year celebrations, theater performances to understand the Chinese culture, to observe Hong Kong Dominicans, and going to Hong Kong cemeteries. On February 1882, Rizal left Hong Kong on board the Oceanic, an American steamer, and his next destination was Japan. During his time on the Oceanic, he did not like the meals on board, but he liked the ship because it was clean and efficiently managed. His cabin mate was a British Protestant missionary who had lived for China for 27 years. He knew the Chinese language very well. Rizal called him a good man. One of the happiest interludes in the life of Rizal was sojourn in the land of cherry blossoms for 1 month and a half, from February 28 to April 13 in 1888. He was enhanced by the natural beauty of Japan, the charming manners of the Japanese people, and the picturesque shrines. February 28, 1888. He arrived in Yokohama aboard the ship Oceanic and briefly stayed at the Grand Hotel. The next day, he proceeded to Tokyo and took a room in Tokyo Hotel, where he stayed from March 2 to 7. In March 4, 1888, he wrote a letter to Professor Blumentritt. Tokyo is more expensive than Paris. The walls are built in a cyclopean manner and the streets are large and wide. Shortly after Rizal's arrival in Tokyo, he was visited at his hotel by Juan Perez Caballero, the secretary of Spanish legation. The latter invited him to live at the Spanish legation. Legation, don't know. In March 7, 1888, Rizal checked out of Tokyo Hotel and lived at the Spanish legation. Rizal accepted the offer to show he had nothing to hide and saved to the hotel's expenses. He and Perez Caballero became good friends. In a letter of Lumitrit, he described the Spanish diplomat as a young, fine, and excellent writer, and an able diplomat who had traveled much. During his first day in Tokyo, Rizal was embarrassed because he did not know the Japanese language. He looked like Japanese but could not talk Japanese. He had a hard time shopping for he could not understood and the Japanese children laughed at him. Thus, he wrote to Blumentritt, "Here you have your friend, Rizal, the wonder of the Japanese, who has a face of Japanese but does not speak Japanese. On the street, and ill-educated children laugh because I speak such a strange language. In Tokyo, very few persons speak English, but in Yokohama, many speak it. Some believe I am a Europeanized Japanese who does not want to be taken such." To avoid further embarrassment, Rizal decided to study the Japanese language. Being a born linguist, he was able to speak it within a few days. Wow, sana all. He also studied the Japanese drama, kabuki, arts, music, and judo. He browsed the museums, libraries, art galleries, and shrines. He visited Meguro, Nikko, Hakone, Miyanoshita, and the charming villages of Japan. March 1888, Rizal was promenading on the streets of Tokyo near the park. He was impressed by the superb performances of the Western music. He thought, "How admirable was her rendition. I wonder how these Japanese people have assimilated the modern European music to the extent of playing a beautiful musical masterpiece of a great European composer so well." The band stopped playing to take a rest. Some began to converse. In Rizal's amusement, they began talking Tagalog. Approached them, inquiring Tagalog, "Pisano taga saan po kayo?" The musicians were equally surprised and delighted to meet him. They told him they were playing only the secondary instruments. Rizal's romance with Ocesan. One spring afternoon, a few days after he moved to Spanish legation in the Azabu district of Tokyo, Rizal saw a pretty Japanese girl walking past the legation gate. Being a man with an eye of feminine beauty, he was attracted by her regal loveliness and charm. Ocesan is a Japanese samurai daughter taught Rizal the Japanese art of painting known as sumei. If Rizal was a man with a patriotic mission, he would have married Ocesan and lived a stable and happy life with her in Japan. Sayonara, Japan. In April 13, 1888, Rizal boarded the Belgic, an English steamer at Yokohama, bound for the United States. He left Japan with a heavy heart, for he knew that he will never see this beautiful land of the cherry blossoms and his beloved Osei-san. Truly, his sojourn in Japan for 45 days was one of the happiest interludes in his life. Things which previously impressed Rizal in Japan were the beauty of the country, its flowers, mountains, streams, and scenic panoramas, the cleanliness and politeness and industry of the Japanese people, the picturesque dress, and the simple charm of the Japanese woman. There are many few thieves in Japan so that the houses remain open day and night, and in the hotel room, one could safely leave the money on the table. Beggars were rarely seen in the city street unlike Manila and other cities. Voyage across the Pacific. Despite his harrowing heart, Rizal enjoyed a pleasant trans-Pacific voyage to the United States. On board the ship, he met a semi-Filipino family, Mr. Reynaldo Turner, his wife Emma Jackson, daughter of an Englishman, their children, and their maid servant from Pangasinan. One day, one of the children, a bright young boy, asked Rizal, "Do you know, sir, a famous man in Manila named Rical? He wrote a novel, No Limitang Hire." "Yes, hijo, I am Rical," replied Rizal. In great joy, the boy rushed to his mother, informing her that the famous man is their fellow passenger. Another passenger which Rizal befriended on board the Belgic was Techo Suihiro, a fighting Japanese journalist, novelist, and a champion of human rights, who was forced by the Japanese government to leave the country just as Rizal was compelled to leave the Philippines by the Spanish authorities. Rizal visits USA. Oh, say, can you see? His arrival in the country was marred by racial prejudice. He further observed this inequity. the prejudices between the white Americans and the black Negro. April 18, 1888, Rizal arrived for the first time in San Francisco. The health authorities placed an entire ship under quarantine because of an alleged cholera outbreak in the Far East. He soon discovered that placing the ship under quarantine was motivated by politics. The ship was carrying 643 Chinese coolies. At the time, public opinions on the Pacific coast were against the cheap coolie labor because the coolies from China were displacing the white laborers in the railroad construction camps. To win the votes of the whites in California, because the election was near, the administrations impeded the entry of Chinese coolies. May 4th, 1888, the day he was permitted to go ashore. Rizal registered at the Palace Hotel, which was considered a first-class hotel in the city. Rizal stayed in San Francisco for 2 days, from May 4th to May 6th, 1888. The President of the United States at that time was Governor Cleveland. May 6th, 1888. He left for New York and saw the American continent. He passed through the states of Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Nebraska, and Illinois. Oakland was his first stop via ferryboat and via train. Sacramento was next, where he ate his supper 75 cents and slept at his couch. Reno, Nevada, where he had his breakfast. Utah, where he saw Mormons. And Colorado, where he saw a lot of snow and pine trees. And then in May 12, 1888, he stopped at Niagara Falls. He compared it with the Falls of Los Banos, saying the latter, through the smaller size, is more beautiful and finer. May 13, 1888, Rizal arrived in New York City and stayed at the Fifth Avenue Hotel. He described New York as a great city. He was able to visit relics of George Washington, Brooklyn Bridge, and a Statue of Liberty. And on May 16, 1888, Rizal left New York on board the City of Rome to London. Rizal's impressions of America. The good part of America. Material progress of the city as shown on the city's farms and industries. And the second is the drive and energy of the Americans. And the third is the natural beauty of the land. The fourth is the high standard of living, and the fifth is the opportunities for better life offered to poor immigrants. And the bad part is lack of racial equality. The next destination of Rizal was London. On May 24, 1888, Rizal reached Queenstown in Ireland. From there, he embarked on a ferry going to Liverpool and stayed at Adelphi Hotel. He then traveled by train to London. May 25, 1888, Rizal went to London. He first made a stop at the Grand Hotel Midland. Two intentions on why Rizal goes to London. Number one is to develop his knowledge of the English language. And number two, to annulate the famous work of Antonio de Morga on the history of the Philippines, the Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. He came to know a Filipino resident in London, Dr. Antonio Ma Regador, a wealthy man and practicing lawyer who was exiled in 1872. Rizal developed a strong friendship with Dr. Regador. He met Dr. Reinhold Rost, the librarian of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and an authority on Malayan languages and customs. He called Rizal a pearl of a man, or una perla de hombre, as he was impressed by his learning and character. Jose Rizal revised El Filibusterismo in London in 1888, changing the plot of some chapters. Rizal devoted much of his time annotating the work of Dr. Morga. He frequented British Museum and later gained access to a copy of a book where he patiently copied by hand. In a letter to Blumentritt dated September 17, 1889, Rizal said, Morga's works is an excellent book. It can be said that Morga is a modern scholarly explorer. He commented almost all the pages of the book, and this prompted his desire to recertify some of the points written by Dr. Morga so that the Filipinos would know and would understand the history of their country. Rizal's annotation of the book was later published in Paris in 1890s. Romance with Gertrude Beckett. Rizal had a romantic interlude with the oldest of the three Beckett sisters. Gertrude Beckett was a buxom English girl with brown hair, blue eyes, and pink cheeks. Rizal did not put his personal interests above and beyond for his of our country. He did not pursue Gertrude. Short visit to Paris in Spain. September 1888. His experience in the place, accompanied by Juan Luna and his Luna family, Rizal decided to visit Paris for a week to search for more historical materials in the Bibliothèque Nationale. December 11, 1888, he went to Spain, visiting Madrid and Barcelona. His trip was prompted by the desire to contact his comrades, Marcelo H. del Pilar and Mariano Pons. He conducted his compatriots and surveyed the political situations with regards to the agitation for the Philippines reforms. December 24, 1888, Rizal returned to London and spent his Christmas and New Year's Day with the Becklets. December 31, 1888, a few days after returning to in London, Rizal learned that the Filipinos in Barcelona were planning to establish a patriotic society which would cooperate in the crusade for reforms. This society association is called La Solidaridad or Solidaridad Association. La Solidaridad's purpose was to unite Filipinos in Europe in their request for reforms in the Philippines. February 15, 1889, Graciano Lopez Jaena founded the patriotic newspaper called La Solidaridad in Barcelona, where he was reciting this as a fortnightly periodical which served as an organ of the propaganda movement. Several articles of Rizal came out in the different editions of the propaganda. Letters to the Woman of Malolos, The Truth of Everyone, Barantes of the Tagalog Theater, and The Indolence of the Filipinos. He advocated for political representation, freedom of speech, equal rights, and educational reforms for Filipinos. He maintained correspondence with other reforms leaders like Marcelo H. del Pilar and Antonio Luna. His articles raised awareness in Spain and Europe about life of Filipinos under colonial rule. Sad news from home. The deportation of his brother-in-law, Manuel R. Hidalgo, he came to know of this innocent through telegram from Hong Kong, confirmed through a letter of Manuel R. Hidalgo himself. Manuel R. Hidalgo was deported by the order of Superior Governor of the town of Tagbilaran. Rizal leaves London for Paris and later in Brussels. March of 1889, after his works were finished in London, Rizal decided to go to Paris, the French capital. Mamma mia! In January 28, 1980, accompanied by Jose Alberto, he went to Brussels, Belgium. Rizal stayed in a rental house in 38 Rue Philippe du Champagne, owned by Jacobi sisters. Among his activities to Belgium were writing of his second novel titled El Filibusterismo, a sequel to his No Le Tangere, assisted in a local clinic to make a living, attended to many correspondences with his family and fellow propagandists, and authored many articles for La Soledad. Rizal's family evicted in Calamba Estate. In a letter of his brother Pasiano, he was informed of the petition to evict the tenants filed before the Justice of Peace. In the same letter, Pasiano told his brother that the chance of seeking justice can be had in the Supreme Court in Spain. In a letter from his sister Lucia, he was given an account of how his family and townsmates suffer. The letter reads, "Concerning our town, perhaps your heart would ache at the blindness of our compatriots. You can then imagine what would happen when the lay brothers go out riding. The lieutenant of the civil guard sits on the little bench of the carriage and the acting lieutenant goes over the curate. When the lay brothers have some orders for the hacienda, they send out the captains." Another unfortunate news came from his sister Saturina on June 2nd, 1890. Manuel, husband of Saturina, was deported again and worse, was arrested while eating during Christmas. The last letter received by Rizal before moving to Madrid came from his brother-in-law Silvestre Abaldo. The letter sent papers of eviction issued by the manager of the Calamba estate against his family. Rizal felt guilty of what had been happening to his family members left back in the Philippines. Thus, he instituted a vigorous legal defense from London and Barcelona with the help of Marcelo H. del Pilar. This made Rizal feel the urge to go home for his people, but his friends, Blumentritt, Basa, and Pons warned him of danger. He changed his mind of going home because he heard from Pasiano that they lost the agrarian case. Rizal planned to raise the case in Madrid and he plans to defend it in Spain. And then Rizal moves to Spain. In early August, Rizal moved to Madrid. His purpose was to pursue an appeal case in Hacienda in Colombia before the Supreme Court in Spain. He had arrived in Madrid in August 1890, but the bad news held as he arrived in the country. The first news was the failure to get the justice for the family. Colombia was in chaos. Spanish statesmen only contributed words of sympathy. The second news was the death of Jose Maria Panganiban, his propaganda in Barcelona, due to illness on August 19, 1990. The third news was aborted duel with Antonio Luna and Wenceslao Retana. The fourth news is infidelity of Leonor Rivera, planning to get married to an Englishman. And the fifth news was Rizal and Del Pilar's rivalry and the abdication of leadership in La Soledad, leading to divisions of the Filipino community in Madrid.